Is
This
it there?
conference will now be recorded.
Mahantesh, Mr. G.K. Mahantesh is the president of
Sir,
World Cricket Limited, and also he is the CEO and founder of Samarthanam Trust, and which is the premier institution that works in the domain of disabilities. And he will be joining us from Bengaluru. And do we have Sri S.K. Rumta Sahab, very senior expert of.
Durgesh sir, good morning. Mahantesh here.
Hello, Rumta sir.
Durgesh sir, Mahantesh here. Mahantesh.
Oh, Mahantesh bhai, good morning.
Very good morning, sir.
Lovely
Good
to
morning,
have you.
all.
Yeah,
Good morning,
wonderful.
sir. Mahantesh, sir.
Good morning.
uh, I can see so many in my Bhumi, Raj, and hosts. So, with your permission, Chauhan sir, Sri Munna Singh Chauhan, our distinguished chairperson of this webinar, he is there with us. May we request him to proceed with this webinar. Should we start off?
Excuse me, can you ask people to mute? I'm not able to hear anything. Lot of background noise, please.
Yes, yes. May I request all the participants to kindly mute your mic? Kindly mute your mic. You only got to unmute it when you got to speak or you got to raise or you are asked to speak. So I can see, yes, all the mics are, and I'll also request our admin to kindly mute all the mics. Mr. Satish Vishwanathan, I can see him. Yes, Yogesh Bhai is also there. So, Yuvraj, you can now start, please.
Uh, thank you, Durgesh. So I welcome everybody to this session, and I hope everyone out there is doing well. So as we already know, like the third phase of the lockdown, that is till 17th of this month, is going on, and we have already started adapting to the new normal, like wearing face mask, keeping social distancing, and probably this will continue for another 6 months, 1 year, we don't know. So this pandemic, it has basically impacted everyone, I mean, in some or the other ways, and everybody has been struggling in this situation. But it has also admittedly caused a larger impact on the people with special needs. So, all the speakers, all the guests, the audience, the participants, our honorable chief guest, Sri Munna Singh Chauhan, ji, we all are here to discuss and to share our thoughts on the topic, the impact of COVID-19, challenges and opportunities with reference to people with special needs. I would like to introduce myself as Yuvraj Singh. I'll be your moderator for this session, along with Professor Durgesh Pansa, who will also moderate this session. Let me introduce you to Professor Durgesh Pansa first. So Professor Durgesh Pansa is basically he has been a part of USAC, which is Uttarakhand Space Application Center. It's a division of ISRO, and he has served there for about almost 3 years as a director, and currently he is a professor and director of the School of Computer Science and Information Technology, Uttarakhand Open University, and for the last 5 years he is also the director of Uttarakhand Science Education and Research Center in Dehradun. Through USERC, the Uttarakhand Science Education and Research Center, Durgesh sir has also been working on a lot of aspects, with technology that can help the disabled through virtual classes or different innovations. So I would like Professor Durgesh Pansa to again join me and take this session forward and make it a enriching and an interactive one. Sir, over to you. Durgesh, sir.
Yes. So thank you, Yuvraj. And because he's Yuvraj Singh, so he hits only sixes and he scores 36 in an over. So he is always a wonderful batsman and on the lighter side, but he's an extremely capable and extremely proficient individual, professional, and works in this domain of disabilities. Thank you, Yuvraj. And see, a few amendments. I worked with the Space Application Center of Uttarakhand for about 3 years. It is recognized by ISRO as is a space application GIS and remote sensing centric center. It is a state organizations center, and I am presently with, in addition to my being with one university, because for last about 30 years or so, more than 30 years, I have been associated with various universities because I am a teacher, I am a professor of computer science and IT. So, but I am a teacher basically. So, thank you very much. And I welcome you all. First and foremost, I welcome our very distinguished chairperson of this session because this is something very important, and especially in the wake of this COVID-19. May I request all the panelists to kindly mute their mics. Kindly mute their mics. This is something very important. Otherwise, it's not audible because it is webinar and it is not that kind of a physical auditorium where we are addressing and everybody, is listening to the speaker. So I welcome our chairperson of the day, Sri Munna Singh Chauhanji, very distinguished politician. He has been in politics for more than 3 decades again, and a wonderful person, extremely knowledgeable, and having a concern for towards this cause of disability. He has been attending our programs, and basically he's a scientist and a core intellectual. So extremely appropriate person to be there on this panel. While I discussed about this particular, this webinar with him, he readily agreed. Sir, thank you very much for being with us, and we would be enriching ourselves by your thoughts and your insight, because this will go a long way towards designing, crafting many of government's policies, and you being the part of the government, it is much too required, and this is much too important for us to have your views, and further on you can go along with the thoughts what is happening around at international and national level. Thank you very much. And we are also privileged to have Mr. Mahantesh GK, and he is the founder and trustee of Samarthanam Trust for Disabled and president of World Blind Cricket Limited, and he is president of Cricket Association of Blind in India. He not only he is a wonderful human being, but he is the core. He is the nucleus. Around him goes all these, all these technological interventions and all these issues with regard to disabilities. So while Mahantesh is there, everything is possible and all things are going to be good and conducive. This is what we believe. Thank you, Mahantesh Bhai, because you have been very kind and you really agreed to be part of this webinar. Thank you very much. And we have with us one very distinguished person, a very senior advocate of the apex court of the nation, that is Supreme Court of India, Sri Kumar Rumta. And he has been General Secretary of National Federation for Blind. So he's there and he has fought the cause of disabled and disabled people, especially abled people, differently abled people, for a long time, more than 3 decades. He has been fighting along and he has been instrumental in getting a few laws enacted. So he's the person, sir. You are there. Thank you very much. This webinar is this has been planned for about 90 minutes or so. So we have about 8, 9 very distinguished speakers. So my request would be, so each one would be speaking, say, for 7 to 8 minutes, and for 2-3 minutes we can have question answer session, or we can have those question answer session at the end of, when everybody, all speakers, they speak out. And we have Mr. Prashant Ranjan Verma, General Secretary of National Association for Blind, Delhi, and he is consultant of training and technical support, and he is trainer for application of assistive technology. Now, assistive technology are very important, be it be it all disabled people, eye to hearing to speech to all sorts of assistive technologies, and prosthetics is coming up so very strongly. And other day, a friend of mine from US, she called up, and her sister, she has designed a new device, a assistive device. And now the word is all open. They're saying, yes, they are more than willing to cooperate and to collaborate in terms of assistive technologies also. So Mr. Prashant will tell us about all these technologies and these interventions. Then we have our Guruji, Sri Rajendra Kumarji. He is the International Disability Development Consultant. He is also chairman of Innovative Development Transformations, and he has also been to Uttarakhand a couple of times while we were organizing those capacity building programs, especially for university, college teachers. So he has always been a huge help to all of us. So he has been coming over. Today he is there. And thank you very much, sir. We have Mr. Amir Thapa, and he is Senior Manager, Chaudhary Foundation, Nepal, and also worked as a Senior Program Officer for International Medical Corps for a meal program. So welcome, sir. We have Dr. Sujata Sinha, Chief Executive of GAP Foundation and Fellow of PHG Foundation, Cambridge, UK. And basically, she is a hematopathologist by profession and a recipient of very, very prestigious Endeavour Executive Award from the government of Australia in the year 2010. We have Mr. Sahib Naqvi, he is founder of Sahes Foundation, Inclusive Resource Center, a person who works in the domain of this inclusive education, inclusive system, and especially for differently abled children. We have Mr. Shailendra Yadav. Now I'll take some pause because Shailendra is one person who has been
This conference
instrumental
will
in
now be
taking this
recorded.
blind cricket to Uttarakhand. So he is General Secretary of North India, this Blind Cricket Association, and close, I should say, a close associate of Mahantesh sir. And he has been very, very kind and very, very supportive of our initiative with regard to disabilities. And he is also our ambassador of USERC while we were designing all our programs. So he is one person who always tell us, as to how we should go forward with regard to these programs. And we have so many other persons of repute, those who have joined us. We have Mr. Murli Padmanabham, and he is currently Gender and Disabilities Inclusion Advisor for the South and Central Asian region. And we have so many other scientists, those who have joined us, but these are all the list of our coveted speakers. I welcome you all because time is fast running out, so we will keep chipping in with our comments. And to begin with, may
Sir,
I request
Durgesh, before you invite someone, I would just like to mention our sponsor for this session, Radio Udaan. So Radio Udaan is an exclusive and inclusive online radio station for people with disabilities. It was started in 2014 and it is going strong. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor and for the evening, for
Yes.
the webinar.
So we were shouting out for Radio Udaan and one more Udaan. We in Uttarakhand and we at the USERC, we have created a group, and it's a very, very, sort of very intense group. And this is Uttarakhand Dyslexia and Disability Association. We call it Udaan again. So number of members, very elegant members of Udaan, they have also joined us. People from NIVH and from other institutions, they are also part of Udaan. So a big shout out to Udaan. So now is the time, because I welcome all our distinguished panelists, and all our, these days we call it webinarians. So these webinarians is something very important. See, COVID has taken its toll, and at times I call it, today happens to be the 51st day of this lockdown 3.0, and we are looking forward to lockdown 4.0. So, but this 51 happens to be quite an auspicious number. So, on this 51st day, we are talking about all these issues at international level also. We know for certain, yes, it has impacted our lives. We are, within within these walls, and we have our huge challenges before us, and we know, and we have always tried to find out solutions. We are looking forward to opportunities as to what will happen post COVID, or we got to live with COVID. So these are very, very eminent, pertinent issues before us. But for people with disabilities, for differently abled people, again, it's a different word altogether, where physical proximity, it is so very important. Because when we say, at times I am also a little confused about it. When we say social distancing, I always used to ponder, should it be physical distancing or should it be social distancing? Because social distancing these days, through webinars, other things, and online, these modes and these virtual means, this social distancing has been minimized to some extent. But physical distancing, yes, we got to keep that social distancing. But for people with special needs, as to what should happen, how will it, how will it go? So these are very important issues, but opportunities are immense, you see, because if you are confined to a particular place, still your this wonderful brain cells are functioning. You can do wonders around, especially with assistive technologies, with technologies, with your flight of imagination. So we will come up with several such things during the course of this webinar. I won't take much time, and I would like to invite Mahantesh Bhai for his comments and for his address. Mahantesh, Sri Mahantesh, sir, can
Hi,
you hear me?
Durgesh sir, good morning. Yeah, good morning, sir. Can you all hear me?
Yes, please go. Yes, of
Okay, good
course.
morning, Durgesh sir. Yeah, good morning, respected Honorable Munna Singh sir, Honorable MLA, Durgesh sir, Yuvrajji, my Guru Rajendra sir, my friends, my elder brother, and Mr. Santosh sir, and all my friends. So let me thank Shailendra for getting this organized under Durgesh Bansar's leadership. So Samarthanam would like to thank all
I'm
those who have
listening.
joined this.
I'm listening.
Yeah, and I also would like to thank USERC and our my shout also to Radio Udaan. So I think it's very important at this point of time we all start talking about the challenges and the opportunities. So COVID is a big challenge. It's a pandemic, epidemic. Entire world is shaken by this. Perhaps one of the most deadly impact it has caused havoc on mankind. Never before in the past. Though we had heard about Spanish flu, plague, and whole lot of, and also world wars, but this is one which is completely global in nature. I think one of the negative side of globalization, what you may all call. So definitely there are tremendous challenges for everybody, and more so for persons with disability. Because of many challenges they go through due to physical, visual, and other disability, they get disabled to access opportunities. They are kind of kept away from accessing the support system. So challenges are very many, very many. So a lot of them are not able to go to their workplace. Some of them who are not technologically sound, working in manufacturing industries, are unable to move, and so even services which are available from government and all that, they are not able to access it and get those facilities. So like this, there are many challenges. I don't know what are more challenges going to come, because post lockdown, post COVID corona, I feel it is like a catastrophe. Now people are impulsive, are coming forward and helping some of the disabled people to overcome the immediate requirements. Could be money, could be dry ration, could be whatever. But what after the post COVID? I see it's going to be a lot more problems. So a lot of them may not get jobs, a lot of them may lose jobs, and a lot of them may lose a lot of other things. So could be employment, and especially social distance, what we all call social distance, especially for people like me and many of my friends, visually impaired community. Social distance is impossible. We need someone to help us. We need to hold someone, or someone have to hold us. Otherwise, our mobility becomes a big challenge if we want to travel around. So I pray Almighty to take this COVID away as early as possible, so that we can hold somebody's hand, to move around. So like this, there are many challenges. Samarthanam, as a very responsible organization, immediately when lockdown was imposed, some of us got together and constituted COVID war team, COVID relief team, or whatever you can call, Warriors of Samarthanam. So some of the senior members got together and decided to explore our possible potentiality to help some of our brothers and sisters without a disability, and people with who are daily wage earners, laborers, migrants. So three major interventions we immediately planned. One was providing dry ration kits. Two was to provide cooked hot meal around Samarthanam. And third one was to support our COVID warriors, doctors and health workers. So up to now, we have distributed close to 10,000 dry ration kits to people with disability, mostly in Bangalore and other places of India, some in Delhi and other parts of Karnataka, a little in Chennai, Guntur, and about 150,000 food packs, hot meal, cooked food, and close to 3,000 PPE kits to government hospitals in Bangalore and Mysore. So this is going to continue. We're not stopping. We're talking to a lot of companies. We're talking to a lot of high net worth individuals who all are willing to help us. The opportunities definitely not very solid right now, but we all looking at this forum of eminent people, I'm sure we all can come out with many opportunities, especially using technology. People with disability can acquire a lot of skills, can acquire jobs, can study online. So what we all have to do is make sure they all are provided with technological devices and train them, enable them to use this to get themselves empowered, so that they are not left in the post-COVID scenario. So opportunities could be in education, could be in training, could be in employment. And anyway, we are into sports, promoting cricket for the blind. While Durgesh sir introduced me, the president of Cricket for the Blind, CABI is committed to continue its calendar without any disturbance, come what may. I think we all have to arrive at come what may. We're not going to stop. Come what may will not halt anything. So we will continue to do what we were. We will continue to add more than what we have been doing. So if our determination and commitment is there, using technology, using proactive from like-minded people like you all, and also motivate government to increase their support system, increase their assistance, and also start talking to companies. They have to become more proactive and start employing people with disability. Government also should open more avenues, more doors, and we should motivate our community to get into entrepreneurship. They should become entrepreneurs. See, if they can become entrepreneurs, they can give jobs. So like this, these are some immediate thoughts I have, but I'm sure a lot of you, people with tremendous eminence, tremendous knowledge, will have very many ideas. I'm here with you all to implement them so that our community, people with disability, will not suffer because of COVID corona. So I conclude by thanking the chair, our honorable MLA sir, and our moderators, eminent moderators, Durgesh sir and Imraj, Shailendra, and all my eminent distinguished gurus, leaders, and my friends. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Mahantesh Bhai, for your very, very insightful words. And as you said, come what may, we will not stop. That is the determination. That's the inspiration you have always given through your leadership. And you have established this huge institution called Samarthanam, and which not only gives employment to thousands of people, but caters to the needs of thousands of people with special needs. So hats off to you and hats off to your effort. See, of course, this hand holding is required. We need to hold each other's hand, and that is why we are human beings. But since there is this social distancing, as we call it within quotes, so how difficult it would have been, we can all imagine, especially for people who need this physical proximity. But this human civilization, it has come across, it has won over so many pandemics and such disasters in the past. And we are pretty certain that these all wise men and these people of intellect and this entire humanity would be able to, again, cross through all these difficult times and all these difficult tides. Thank you very much, Mahantesh Bhai, for your words of wisdom. I would now like to request.
Durgesh sir, can we take two questions? 2 or 3 questions can we take so that people will remember after the session there will be too many questions. So maximum 3 questions we can take.
Yeah, 1 or 2 because time is limited. So we can have 1 or 2 questions. So anyone who is interested maybe can switch on his mic and ask or can provide some insight. Or at the end of it, there is this chat box also, so we can type our questions, or we can yes, we can send our messages also. It is also there. This option is also there. Yes, if there is any, please come forward. Now, may I request? So what we will do at the end of it, we can yes.
Professor
To answer, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Will it be possible to proceed like this, that have a quick comments in the beginning and then sort of the interaction or the question session, so that we got to understand the complete the spectrum of the deliberation.
Yes.
And then of course this is how, if we get involved in the question session right in the beginning, then it may be possible that all the participants and the speaker will not get a chance within the limited time frame.
Yes.
That's my suggestion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what we will do, we can have a question answer, this QA round at the end of, this session. We can have a full 15-20 minutes of time for this. So I would now request Sri Santosh Kumar Rimta sir, a very senior advocate of Supreme Court of India and General Secretary of NFB, National Federation of Blind. So kindly, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes.
Santosh sir?
Yes, yes. Am I audible?
Sir, we are waiting for you. Yes, you are. Please.
Honorable Chairperson for the webinar, Munna Singh Chauhan ji, my good friend Mahantesh ji, other esteemed speakers and webinarians. Since time is very limited, I will try to be very brief and pointed in my remarks on the issue. There is no dispute that this pandemic has affected adversely the most the inclusion of persons with disabilities. This pandemic has come at a time when in many countries, including India, we were in the process of inclusion, ensuring inclusion of persons with disabilities in all aspects of life. But this pandemic has posed a challenge to this effort of inclusion and forced us to go back and even enforce more vigorously the process of exclusion than inclusion. I entirely agree with the moderator. I was taking part in a webinar yesterday also where I made similar point on the use of the terminology social distancing. Social distancing is not appropriate in the context in which it is being used in the wake of spread of this disease pandemic. Why I say so? When you call it social distancing, you are somehow adversely affecting the emotional boundings which make the society together. It's actually physical distancing and not social distancing. Now, from here, I would like to first outline the challenges that I see because of, and all these flow because of this physical distancing, so far as persons with disabilities are concerned. To begin with, all types of persons with disabilities, particularly blind, have to depend on touch. And touch is the biggest potential carrier of this coronavirus. Not only to the individual who is able to get into contact with this coronavirus by touch, but also to his family members, to others who would be coming in close proximity of the blind individual. So, what this pandemic has forced us to do, that you distance from others, don't touch others, don't touch objects. Now, if I don't touch objects, if I don't seek assistance by holding hand, what do I do? How do I manage my affairs, particularly my mobility, particularly my functioning in my office? You have seen the latest guidelines of railways, where when they started 15 trains, what they did, they said nobody would be allowed to enter except the passenger, the station. Full stop. Now, if a blind individual has to enter, or a person in wheelchair has to enter the railway station and then go to the compartment where he has reserved his ticket or her ticket, what does he do or she do? How does she enter the station? How does she or he enter the compartment? Find his or her seat. Are we not excluding? And airlines are also preparing in a similar manner, where it would be contact free. I'm talking of the post-pandemic and during pandemic together, because we don't have time to segregate both. Therefore, it is a big challenge. Now, what do? We have, as an organization, as an active advocacy organization at national level, made various interventions for ensuring policies which do not promote exclusion. If we are forced to stop the process of inclusion, at least we should not be excluded, and whatever achievements we have made, we must try to achievements towards inclusion, we must try to retain them, preserve them. So what we have said, and which is being considered by the government, I have taken it up with DGCA, I have taken it up with Railway, I have taken it up with Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, and taken it up with the Home Ministry. That you provide adequate safeguards like PP kits to the human assistance, which is made available at the airports and railway stations, and provide the same safety kits to the passenger, disabled passenger who need the assistance. Friends, now coming back, we are talking that technologies have given a lot of opportunity, no doubt about it. But the manner in which we are forced to change the systems, for instance, examinations, online teaching for education. Now we have to think whether this has come at a time when we were prepared for it. Imagine a student sitting in rural area. Delhi University has made its notification only yesterday night, where they are saying that there will be online exam and open book exam. Now, in the first place, a blind student sitting in rural area may not have the facility of computers or necessary infrastructure, network in his or her home. How does she appear in this exam? What about the portals through which we are being taught online? Are they accessible? One needs to examine them. And to my understanding, I may be wrong, to my information, because I am not a techno-savvy, and in this panel there are experts of technology, they would throw light more on it. But in my assessment and understanding, the portals which are being used at present are not, in the first place, accessible. And if at all they are accessible, then the teachers who are using the online platform to impart education, they are more doing it through visuals, ignoring completely the requirement of VLs. So what do? We need immediate accessibility check of these online portals, and also some kind of sensitization and training to these teachers. so that we exercise our right to equality in the matter of education. And regarding examination, what we have suggested, we have said that you should allow offline examination to be given by blind students after you have conducted online examination, in which there should be no restriction on the eligibility of a writer to be used, and also permission to take an extra device with them so that they may take DigiPlayer or something where they have books, and they could, by using find option, they could go to the relevant portion of the book by having the advantage of open book system which they are introducing for sighted people or other students. We must be given extra time. If it is an examination for normal students, sighted students, 3 hours, I'm sorry for using normal, we are also normal. Sighted students 3 hours, we must be given 5 hours, because we need extra time to find the relevant portion of the book to answer the question. We need extra time to scan and upload. So these are some, I'm just outlining the examples. Now I will quickly come to the economic impact. I know Mahantesh ji is leading a very efficient organization, catering to the needs of thousands of people. But his organization or anyone's organization will now face the economic resources crunch, because those who were assisting us financially or partnering with us in terms of finances are themselves affected adversely economically, financially. And therefore, we will have a hit to our programs being run because of the lack of finances. Our investments, be it mutual fund investments, the yield from there is zero. Interest rates from FDs has come down drastically, and nobody knows it may further come down post-pandemic. So these are economic challenges to the organizations. Now coming to the individuals, there are thousands and thousands of lakhs of persons with disabilities who were earning by selling things, articles in railways, on patries in the towns. They will have no job at all, at least for another 2 years. That's my assessment. One may call me very pessimistic, but that is a realistic assessment. Now, what then could be the strategy to save their lives and their livelihoods? Their organizations like Samarthanam, like NFB, like NAB will have to come together and to find a strategy. Now, Samarthanam, for instance, Mahantesh ji was saying that we must try to convert this into opportunities. Yes, and we must, for this, we must have a out-of-box thinking process. For instance, today what is in demand? In demand is masks. In demand is sanitizers. In demand is gloves. Probably we can think of trying to train these brothers and sisters in them, in manufacturing these things and trying to market them so that their livelihood could be saved. I would, before finishing, try to very quickly say what NFB did. in the wake of this pandemic. Our efforts were on two fronts. One, on policy interventions, the other on relief. On policy intervention sides, before the lockdown was announced, we undertook to campaign with central government, banks, public sector undertakings, and state governments to exempt disabled employees from duty, because they are the most vulnerable. And I am happy to share with you that I succeeded in it, our organization succeeded in it. Almost all state governments and central government and public sector undertakings and banks have exempted during the entire lockdown period. I hope in in lockdowns four also we will have similar exemption, for which I am working. On relief side, what we did from Kashmir to Kanyakumari through our branches, because we have national presence. Through our branches, we have distributed, because we cannot have the infrastructure everywhere where we could distribute ration or cooked food. Therefore, in order to cover all areas, we distributed rupees 1,000 to almost 2,000 people. Apart from this, wherever we had infrastructure, rations have been distributed, ration kits, and also cooked food, visually impaired persons. We have restricted our resources to visually impaired because we thought that they need it most at this time. I would end by thanking the organizers of this webinar and urging all leaders of different organizations to come together and defeat this coronavirus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramita sir, because he has always stood for this great cause, not only through this tax court and through various litigation at that forum. He has succeeded in taking this cause forward. But during this very, very difficult times, still he is trying out, and he has provided so much relief to this community. Thank you very much. But these are very, very difficult times, and at times we call it these are volatile times, very uncertain times, very complex times, and very ambiguous times. We don't know what is going to happen. Yet you are not in pessimist, as you were saying, because ultimately you have fought and fought and fought for all these decades altogether and fought them extremely successfully. Thank you very much. And definitely through this webinar also we'll reach out to some policy framing at this level as to how we can take this voice forward. Now I would request our chairman of this session, today's session, Sri Munna Singh Chauhanji, for his words of wisdom and for his thoughts. So may I request Sri Chauhanji.
Thank you very much, Professor Durgesh. Good morning, everyone, those present in this webinar. I believe everyone participating in the webinar are expert, working for the people with some disabilities, except me. I'm a kind of a socio-political worker, and in fact, I feel extremely honored and privileged having been invited to this participate in this webinar. Like my the previous speakers, Mahantesh, who was a kind of a pioneer in the field of working for the disabled people, and very senior advocate, Mr. Rungta, has literally drawn a complete format what all required to be done for people with disabilities. But if we reduce this entire deliberation certain basic things as the subject of the webinar itself speaks for. The impact of COVID-19 on the lives of the people with disabilities. Fortunately, there are no underlying things in disabled people where the coronavirus makes more deadly. But at the same time, there are underlying conditions which make the disabled community more vulnerable to the impact of the pandemic. Very practical aspects have been touched down by Advocate Rungtaji in his very meaningful discussion, and Mahantesh. Now, as I said in the beginning, because we come across lots of people with physical disability day in and day out, visiting hospitals, going to the relief camps, looking after the shelters, and sometimes even the quarantine centers and all that. I have come across certain basic difficulties faced by the people with the disabilities. For example, when we move around with the our face covered, physically disabled people picks up things by the lip movement of our lips, our facial expression, and sign language, and audios with captions, because some have a disability of hearing impairment, some has a visual disability, so and so forth. And as Rungtaji has very rightly pointed out, that the sixth sense of the physically disabled people, or the people with physical disabilities, their sixth sense largely get activated by touch. And so far as this COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, the biggest problem is because the transmission chain starts the moment we touch objects, and if the object happens to be infected, then this transmission chain get connected. So, and one more curiosity which I had after hearing the very meaningful information diverged by Rungtaji. There are certain things which needs to be, in the statutory provisions in this hour of crisis. For example, because I'm basically a lawmaker, as a legislator, I'm a lawmaker. And so there is a need to, came about some kind of a legislation and some administrative mechanism where the lives of the people with disabilities. What I've experienced very personally, people with disabilities are seriously at disadvantage in terms of availability of the quality of health care, because the dissemination of the information system is not in the proper format. So a lot of information, a huge lot of information which are being pumped into the social domain, they are not in the proper format, and the people with physical disabilities, they are not really benefited with that, and as a result they cannot they are seriously at disadvantage when it comes to taking the care of a good health care, taking the support system, moving to the hospital, or someone coming to their aid to, as Rungtaji pointed out, that social distancing sometimes very difficult to decipher how to maintain the social distancing while helping a person with a with a disability. And not only this, let us all come to terms with the fact that this coronavirus, this COVID pandemic is not going to go away so soon. Let us come to terms with this reality. So short-term measures will not really do. Let us really look into the institutional changes. That is why I especially emphasize the need to bring about structural changes that will serve the people for a long time to come. And one more, Professor Durgesh, kindly communicate this very concern to all the the distinguished people, those who are participating in the webinar. I don't find the people belonging to the organizations, those who are working for the people with disabilities, in the mechanism, in the whole setup, which has been evolved by the governments and or the departments to take care of the people with disabilities. So the United Nations, that motto, nothing about us without us. I mean, like the people, those who really know them, who know what the significance of the sign languages, who know the significance of, many things which Rumtaji has pointed out, which Mahantesh has pointed out, which Professor Durgesh has pointed out. Those who really know the meanings of, who really understand the gravity of this kind of assistance. So the government system or the different departments, be it aviation department, be it a railway department, be it the government offices, need to have someone from the organization who have a kind of an expertise in the field, who understand the mindset, who understand the difficulties of people with this kind of disabilities, so that I'll give one illustration. It is said that every disabled person has extra abilities. Every disabled person has a sixth sense, but that sixth sense has to be activated when it comes to my, like I have a disability of mobility. I cannot move around. If you comes to my aid, helping me move around, then only my that sixth sense, that extra ability comes to my help. So these are the certain things, and I believe Rumtaji is a right person who can draw a kind of an advisory to the departments, to the different government departments, and people like us who are into the lawmaking and representatives of the people. We can press with the governments. We can press with the government machinery. We can press with the executive to bring about the changes to make the lives of the people with disability more comfortable, especially in the face of this COVID-19 pandemic. That's all basic things which I wanted to share with you. As an, I said, socio-political worker. So because most of you people are expert in the field, those who have been working for raising the living standard of people with disabilities, years and years rather, and many of you have given your entire life for the cause. So I believe this kind of an useful deliberation can really bring about the required changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And as a lawmaker out here, especially in Uttarakhand and especially in these hilly areas where fortunately pandemic has not struck as severely as it has hit other parts of the country and other parts of the globe. But there are large number of people and above 60, and as we say above 60, there are 40-50% of people having some kind of disability. So many things, in terms of legislation also, a lot has to be done. But You have been extremely proactive, and as you always say, this particular domain is very close to your heart. You have been extremely supportive, and I know for certain, we all know for certain, you will take this cause forward. And thank you very much for your very kind words. And we are looking forward to some kind of, this advisory group, and Mahantesh Bhai is there and Rumta sir is there. So we can have a group of people around, and from our side we can contribute, because one thing this pandemic has done, that is, earlier we never used to have this kind of an interaction. Now boundaries are all open. You are in Bengaluru, we have people from Nepal, from Bengal, from other parts. So in one single platform we can have different opinions, we can collate those ideas, and we can take best of those ideas forward. We can have a good document. And the Rumta sir made one very important point, because technologies, yes, I'm not saying they're juvenile technologies, but technologies, 3D based, 3D model based, immersive technologies, these are there, but these are not being used, as per se, as per the demand and requirement, as on a day-to-day basis. Maybe this pandemic has happened in case of online, because earlier online was never known to people. It was known to a very select few. So maybe something of that sort happened. But on this note, I would just like to invite Mr. Prashant Ranjan Verma, who is General Secretary of National Association for the Blind, and he's a consultant, and basically the technology-centric approach he always carries. So there he is, Mr. Prashant Ranjan Verma, for his remarks.
Yeah, good morning, respected ladies and gentlemen. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So the speakers before me have already spoken about the challenges being faced by people with disabilities during this crisis. I cannot agree more with them. It is very essential for all of us to attract the attention of the government towards including the concerns of the disabled in all the policies and programs that they are preparing at this time. It is also important to remind the corporates that they need to continue to support the various organizations serving the disabled, because otherwise, as Rumtaji had also brought out, the disabled community and their caregivers are feeling as if they are at the end of the line. All the charity money is at this time going towards the COVID relief, which is also correct, but then the community, the society also needs to remember that that people with disabilities are probably the most disadvantaged, most marginalized, and they need support at this time. I will actually like to speak a little about the role of technologies in this crisis, and maybe some possibilities. So the whole world is now forced to adopt digital technologies at this time, for communication, for service delivery, for everything actually. Even the laborers are being made to apply online for a financial assistance, or for a train ticket. So because there is no other way actually at this time to communicate and to provide any kind of service. By and large, the movement of the country or the society to digital medium is actually good for people with disabilities. This is because when information is in digital format, it is relatively easier to convert it to a format which is suitable to people with disabilities. If it is in digital format, some technologies can have it read aloud to people who can't see probably. If it is in digital format, people with weak eyesight can maybe have it enlarged or may convert it to braille, or some kind of sign language also. So so it is very important that the organizations also continue to focus on making the disabled digitally literate. I know it is a big task, but yes, we can already see the impact or the usefulness of digital technologies. those disabled who can use a computer or a smartphone are thankfully facing somewhat less challenges at this time. Even many of us disabled people are independently able to uh, join this webinar. Many of us disabled are able to use various mobile apps and order food or ration, or do a financial transaction. Another good example that I want to share with you is at our National Association for the Blind Delhi branch. We have been providing inclusive school education. We call it integrated education because it is supported by our resource center. So the blind children go to the best mainstream schools, and we are there supporting them throughout with extra classes, with books in accessible formats, with accommodation, with food, everything that they need. And like last 10 years, we also initiated a program where we introduced ICT in school education of the blind. So in our organization, all the students beyond class 6, each of them have a personal laptop, and they have all the training that is required to use them. So these children have now gone home once the schools were closed and the Janta curfew was approaching. So we asked the children to go home. They have gone home, but then many of them are able to now join the online classes being conducted by their schools. Uh, uh, and they are not sitting idle. They are actually not actually losing out. I understand that this is a small example. Maybe very few are able to are doing this. But then, if we try, then many people, many blind students and other disabled people can do this, because this is technologically possible. Thankfully, the mainstream technologies like Android, iOS, the Windows are inclusive. They include features for people with disabilities, and then there are several additional software and devices to enable people to participate and work with the society. Uh, but there is however, a small caveat, um, and there is a small, or you can say a big actually danger also in all this. The software technologies and the various platforms, they need to be accessible. They need to be designed in such a way that they are compatible with the various accessible technologies. So if the government comes out with a mobile app which every citizen has to use at this time, but if that app doesn't work with the screen reader software being used by Shalinder ji or Mahantesh or any of us or any other disabled person, then despite having digital literacy, the capacity to use a smartphone and app, they won't be able to use that particular mobile app, and whatever service or benefit they were supposed to get out of it, they will be deprived of that. So digital technologies on one hand can really empower people with disabilities. They can include them, they can make them independent, but if they are not designed as per the guidelines, as per best practices, they can then actually exclude people with disabilities and make them even more isolated and disadvantaged. So it's very necessary for the social workers at this time, the activists, that we also focus on these aspects. The financial challenges will probably be the biggest challenges for people with disabilities and their organizations. And then the next biggest challenges will be the accessibility of the various digital platforms that are rapidly coming up at this time. Um, uh, so, as I told you, that there are immense possibilities for all disabled, and we just have all of us to be hopeful that that together we will overcome this crisis and this pandemic very soon. So I will be available for questions. Thank you for giving me time.
You talked about technologies. This is so very important because these days we are looking forward to frugal innovations. We are thinking in terms of newer ways of thinking, newer thinking, because
Professor
a crisis
Durgesh,
like this.
Professor Durgesh,
Yeah,
can I take the privilege to make a comment from the chair
of course, of course, of course, of
that
course.
pandemic COVID-19 in some ways has given us an opportunity to go for a more inclusive and techno-savvy practices which can be of great help to people with disabilities, as the speaker has rightly pointed out. So for long run, as I said, that we need to come to terms with the fact that this kind of a crisis are going to visit time and again. So some sort of a permanent arrangement can also be evolved. That is why I have requested Rungtaji to work out some modalities where some structural changes and the institutional changes we can impress upon the institutions to put in place some kind of a permanent set of the arrangement for people with disabilities, taking into view their socio-economic welfare. That's a small comment I wanted to make.
No, it's true. See, from Supreme Court to from the central government, there are guidelines, there are protocols, but how much do we follow at our end at institutional level also? That is a big question. And as far as technologies are concerned, this webinarians, everybody would be somehow pleasantly surprised also. In sometime in 2013 or 14. I had no idea about this pandemic, but I wrote a paper on inclusive IT. And this was also about associative informatics, in which the point I was making was there are vulnerable groups in society. They need technological interventions. There are people, those who are capable of using technology. So how could this hand holding take place? So this is also possibly available on web. So this inclusive IT paper, this was must be required. I would also like to mention that this frugal innovation, inclusive IT, these days we talk about AI, other things. These are not rocket sciences somehow. These things are all possible. We also got to, train our people with disabilities, because the way they handle mobiles, the way they handle voice enabled systems, if they cannot speak, then the other through touch they use technology that is absolutely magnificent. At times that is mind boggling. So which way can we proceed further? That got to be seen. In this context, may I request Sri Rajendra sir, who is our guru and international consultant, to please share his thoughts. I would request all the speakers, because now this is going as per schedule. I am very, very thankful to all the speakers. They have kept this time limit. So about 5 to 7 minutes to each speaker. Sri Rajendra sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, moderator. Especially, a very good afternoon to all, and I appreciate all the inputs that have come up so far. Congratulations to Mahantesh and as well as my good friend 4G, Shailendraji, and Durgesh, Professor Durgesh, namaskar. So this, I would like to be very quick and just go through the bullet points. I'm writing a paper on this, and more probably in 10-15 days it will be ready. These are, I would rather more focus on strategies of what, as our honorable MLA just now said, mentioned about rightly, how we can institutionalize the entire thing. That is the one most sustainable way of addressing this issue. Starting with the challenges, as we all know, barriers and access, and barriers to social, economic, educational, and survival itself is a huge challenge. with or without COVID for people with disability that has been there for a very long time. Now it will be compounded with the pandemic. And sensitivity, the attitudes and sensitivity will be of another major social barrier that people with disability always face. Sharing some of my experiences of working in disasters, disaster management, both in Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, as well as Sri Lanka, post tsunami and after I think someone has not muted, so it's okay. So these are similar disaster of different nature. This is the health catastrophe, so we need to address. I think someone moderator, can you request somebody to mute? Somebody is talking in between. Yeah, am I audible? Yeah. So now the other the additional challenge that we all face, including people with disability, is the fast changing impact and the basic DNA of virus itself. I've been in regular touch with Professor Dr. Prof, and who is leading that community health. He says it has been changing so fast that any kind of strategies that will come up won't change in a 6 months period, or they're yet to come up with a specific addressing issues. So that is an additional challenge, including people with disability. Everyone has to put on it. So look at the opportunities now. Since this entire webinar is on the opportunity side, the Honorable Prime Minister has already announced 2020 package. Right? The 20 lakh crore is a major investment and especially focused on MSMEs. Why I say this? One of the major barriers and the job loss, there are already an estimated 25% of unemployment rate in India, and that's going to definitely bound to increase. And it will take time for MSMEs to catch up with the new provisions and get back to work. And majority of the already employed people with disabilities are in MSMEs, not in big corporations, not in government. That's a very small percentage. And the rest of them are dependent on MSMEs because of self-employment opportunities. So both those who are in wage employment as well as self-employment are worst affected, and they are going to face very huge problem. For example, any employer in a smaller proprietorship would just remove a person with disability, not regular person. That's because to save his cost, to cut his cost, he would rather go for it. So we need to look at that challenge and ensure and influence government and bring in a policy change wherever they take the support of this 2020 package. It need to be inclusive of people with disability, and special provisions have to be provided to ensure continuation of their job. So policy changes and environment. The policy changes are going to, again, Honorable Prime Minister stressed very clearly, local and local. So most of the things are going to happen in local things, and thereby we will look at policy changes. So how we can influence when the policy change happens, how we can ensure that it is inclusive of people, needs of people with disability. So that's what we all need to look at as a future strategy and an opportunity. And there are already hundreds of government schemes and programs in the pipeline. And the esteemed government has already come up with a very excellent programs to cope up with that compared to many other countries, as we all know. And that's going to increase. So how we again work with government, show some examples of various countries and our own experience of the past, and ensure all these government schemes and programs are accessible to people with disability, their families. So that will be the major challenge. That's an opportunity for all of us. Now I jump into strategies. One of the I would like to look at that in the context of 4 broad areas and about another 4 cross-cutting issues. The 4 broad areas that we all as actors need to focus on: people with disabilities and caregivers and their families. So that is the focal. That is where we need to address all of our future strategies as the potential primary target groups. That's one of the first areas we need to look at. And next is the communities in which they live. Anything that happens within the community, people with disability will have a direct impact on that, and a compounded impact as well. So third is the government, which includes state, central, as well as SAARC countries. Honorable Prime Minister again extends support to Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and even smaller countries around, Bhutan and all that. So we have to look at our strategies broadened, not just restricted to India, but to other countries in the SAARC. Then the other area we can look at the players, the NGOs, CBOs, as well as the international agencies. How all these international agencies, CBOs and NGOs can come together, work in cooperation. Someone already said that. And a lot of organizations are still dependent on support from international organizations. One thing I would like to point out as a challenge here, most of the, as we know, Europe and US were the predominant international organizations supporting people with disability and other development issues. Whereas now they themselves are suffering. They are stuck. Their depression will be much higher than us. So naturally, expecting support from those agencies will be limited. So we need to, as Prime Minister said, localize even the funding and resources has to come from local corporates. So the next area we need to look at separate strategies for corporates. How corporates can best use their resources to address the needs of people with disability. And all their grant making, CSR are geared towards addressing especially needs of post-COVID situation. So these are the areas that we need to look at when we institutionalize the next strategy. The cross-cutting areas that I would like to see on those major broad actors are the economic, employment, and livelihood. The worst affected thing will be the employment and job loss, as I already mentioned. So one of the strategies of all actors should be towards rebuilding lives. How we can ensure they get back to work. I say this from my drawing, thanks to Mahantesh for requesting me to go and distribute some of the things. I personally went, and the smile on the faces of people with disability when we go to their doorstep and they receive the nation, it's tremendous. We know the difficulties that they face, especially during this phase. They can't come out. The complete area is confined. All the roads are blocked. Mobility restrictions are already there. So they were really in bad shape. So how actually and that will definitely lead to economic, employment, and livelihood, which will have a compounded effect on the entire family of persons with disability. So, for example, ensure access to livelihoods, restrict job losses. Wherever they are working, we should ensure that the job loss will not be there for people with disability. Provide newer opportunities. There are plenty of newer opportunities, as Prime Minister has announced. So how we can ensure there is a specific reservation policy, specific access, training, skill development to ensure they get back to newer opportunities. So these are on the economic side. We can elaborate because of the time restrictions. I'll come down. Education. Already Prashant Vermaji has very clearly spoken about the technology side. That's one of the best ways to do that, because social distancing will remain. We will have to live with this COVID situation for almost a year or plus. So access to continuing education facilities, continual education facility, but inclusive education system or distance education system has to come back. We can reach out to people with disability who are into education now, has to use technology, especially rural and remote villages where there are no internets, how we can reach out to them, how those students can really continue their education, how could they get their books. For example, if digital books and audio books like Samarthanam and NAB are doing very well, can that be reached out to all of them in a distant mode situation, so that they will at least have access to support for continuing education. Third strategy can be local mentoring support from the communities. The person with disability or a student is not alone. He or she is already with his students, co-students in the same school. So all actors have to identify those co-actors and create that buddy system, and those who are non-disabled students should support people with disabilities, students with disability in their own areas. So now I come to the health side. Health side, there already, we need not have to scratch our heads. WHO has come up with a very strong, very detailed guidelines for post-COVID situation for especially special needs of people with disabilities. So using that base, reduce potential exposure. There will be plenty of exposure, especially, and people with disability are more challenged as far as the exposure is concerned to COVID. So by making all apps and awareness material accessible, how we can reduce their exposure. Second, we should look at plan to continue support and health, both health support for persons with disability. These are two sides. There are plenty of youngsters who are people with disability who require disability specific health interventions. For example, changing catheter, people with spinal injury, people using wheelchairs, they would require health related issues, therapy and other, which is not accessible now. In addition to that, there are several people with disability who are diabetic, who have blood pressure, who have other health issues. So even access to health services for people with disability will be a major challenge. So how these actors can ensure such both general health issues as well as disability specific health issues are addressed. Preparing individual, family and community whom to contact in case of emergency, in case somebody has already, whom to contact fastest, pardon? Fastest mode, that need to be one of the things. Ensuring both mental and physical health of household members to caregivers. There will be a lot of stress within them because of the challenges. So how we can ensure both physical and mental health to them. Telemedicines, for example, telehealth health advice. Immediately when they require something, nobody can go there, they can't come to the hospitals. So how telemedicines using those apps can be more effective to reach out to them to sort out health issues. Emergency evacuation in case of some emergencies, how we can, again, in most disaster situations, people with disabilities are the one who are left out. I've interviewed several people after tsunami. They said all were running for their life. I can't run. Nobody cared at me. They just left me, sir. But somehow I survived. So one boy mentioned this. When everyone is running for life, they don't bother to.
Rajan sir, request.
I'm coming to the last few things. Yes,
Thank
tell
you.
me.
Thank you.
Can you once again? Emergency evacuation, access to relief, rehabilitation, and rebuilding services. That's one of the areas that we need to look at. The last one is the social and personal assistance. This is the major area that every person with disability and their family require it. All COVID materials to be in accessible format for all persons with disability. As we know, most of the announcements even made on TV are not using sign language. Very few of them. Some of the international news will have, and when Prime Minister speaks, it will have, others may not have. So we should ensure all media to use that sign language as one of the things. Second, creating a buddy, friends of persons with disability, local support for daily needs. For example, getting provisions from stores may be a challenge for quite a few. Going to a bank and withdrawing money, going to ATM and withdrawing money, internet services, if it is lost, if it has gone, so how to fix it? Other daily needs, most of the daily needs, both disability specific and others, has to be addressed under personal assistance to be provided for persons with disability. Last but not the least, mobility support in restricted areas, especially access to legal and COVID-related government permissions. For example, I'm still trying. One of my students, earlier student, has to go back to West Bengal. Trains for the West Bengal has not resumed yet. Both of us are trying hard to get him the permission. He stayed in a police station in Bangalore for about nearly 2 days, and and nothing has worked out yet. So this is one challenge of one individual. There will be hundreds and thousands who are being affected by this. Again, I hope these points are relevant, and we can definitely build on and create a better world for people with disabilities in post-COVID situation. Congratulations and thanks for initiating this. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji, Rajendra sir, because you are a reservoir of knowledge and internationally acclaimed consultant. So your views are absolutely precious. We will have this recording. This program has been recorded, so we will be sharing this recording, and this will be also there on YouTube. So it's a document in creation at the moment. So thank you, sir. And now may I request Mr. Amir Thapa, Senior Manager, Chaudhary Foundation, Nepal, and Nepal, who has also worked as Senior Program Officer for International Medical Corps for a meal program.
Send the paper. I will send the paper next time.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Rajendra sir. I request Mr. Thapa for his comments.
Thank you. Firstly, namaskar to all of you and greetings from Nepal. It is really privilege for me to talk you all out from here from Kathmandu. I sent you the good spirit from Kathmandu and from Nepal to you all. And thank you to Samarthanam Foundation. So I think, many of my previous speakers has already talked about the challenges, has already talked about the opportunities as well. So let me briefly talk about the foundation that I work, so that maybe in future we can work together. So I come from Chaudhary Foundation. Chaudhary Foundation is one of the social entity of Nepal. This is established by Chaudhary Group, which is the biggest multinational, because our previous speakers has been also talking about how corporate needs to integrate in the programs for disability through their CSR programs and all that. And fortunately, Chaudhary Foundation has been already doing that. We have this artificial limb fitment camp program here in Nepal because we came to realize that there are around more than 100,000 people living without limb. So we partnered with Jaipur Foundation, Jaipur Foot in India, and we have set up a permanent center. And right now, unfortunately, because of the COVID, that permanent center has also been, closed. So see, these are the challenges that we are facing. And also, to let you all know, this center was also run by our own, a person with disabilities. So, their livelihood, the whole rehabilitation program that we have started is, permanent. I mean, temporarily it has been stopped. So how do we generate these things? That is very important. And at the same time, earlier, I think Mr. Chauhan and also Mr. Rajender, they said, that how do we develop a program based on South Asian region, because culturally we are connected together. So how do we bring these cultural practices together in order to not just help in national level, but whole disability sector come together and they will be assisted together? I think this is very important because, this morning when I was given this platform by Mr. Sailender, I was talking to many friends who work in disability sector here in Nepal, and I was hearing lots of good information from them. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, there are many challenges, and also at the same time, earlier we talked about making how we can make technology savvy and all this, but at the same time I think we also need to think about there are countries like Nepal which is geographically very different. We have plain areas, we have mountains, and we have hill areas. So there are not even internet and stuff like this. So I think while we are inventing, while we are innovating these ideas, we also need to think about this kind of, how do we make this inclusive, geographically inclusive, while we are working for disability. And I agree with Mr. Chauhan earlier, the motto of United Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities, nothing about us without us. I think organizations who are working in disability, they need to be the leader of this sector in reinventing, in re-innovating, in innovating and all this. And they should be the leader in order to create a milestone and create an opportunity out of this. And I think I want to stop it out there because of time constraint. May God bless us all, and may God bless us to help endure the humanity. And Chaudhary Foundation is with the disability sector throughout the time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. And we have a good message from directly from the abode of Lord Shiva, the Pashupatinath. And thank you so much. And this Chaudhary Foundation happens to be such a huge foundation, and very, very pointed remarks you made. Now I request Dr. Sujata Sinha for her comment. Dr. Sujata Sinha, she is Chief Executive of GAP Foundation, and she is a hematopathologist by profession, and she has introduced us to this thalassemia.
Professor Durgesh,
Yes,
may I please request, Mr. Thapa has brought to discussion very important aspect, that is the socio-cultural, contiguity. So if these learned participants can take this issue further in the course of discussion, that may be of a great help.
Hello. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Thank you. May I come in? Hello.
please come in.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Durgesh. Hello. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Durgesh for inviting me for this webinar. Respected Shri Chauhanji and all from the from Samarthanam and all our guests and participants. I just briefly, I just make a few points, and before which I feel, which I can think as an input from my end. And just before that, a few what I want to reemphasize some of the points which have been brought forth by the previous speakers. One of course, as I start with that, yes, I think that is a very important point, just reinforcing that social distancing need to be translated to physical distancing rather than social distancing, because already other speakers have that. That's very important, because social does have so many connotations that we have to somehow change the concept into physical distancing. That is important in context of this. The other thing I just want to say that we all know what an opportunity, I mean, why what COVID is doing to us, why this pandemic. But I think the greatest opportunity for the COVID has brought is the importance of public health. I mean, that is the greatest lesson that we need to take up. This is the opportunity to ramp up our public health. Somehow and that is, I think, if we can learn from here. And coming to Uttarakhand, like when we came 10 years back where we were, and we have been going, the local structures from primary health care to everything has to be built up. And whenever we have been talking about disability or anything, everything can be better maintained. I mean, no lesson can be better than how the importance of public health needs infrastructure. So we need to just take this opportunity to build up on these structures. That is very, very essential. I hope we can just in terms, and we need to focus that on the health, on the states, that take it on the state level and just see to it, because every state's demands, needs, geography, demography is different, and we need to, and we know that states who have a good public health system, they are being able to respond well to it. That is one lesson that we need to take. Regarding some of the points that been brought up about the, so speakers have brought up about the caregivers in the people who are with people with disability. That is a very important point. And training of caregiver, I mean, persons who are caregiver, actually when we practice social distancing, we should assume that the caregiver of the person, it depends on, some of the people within in a lesser and which are not in the social economically disadvantaged groups do not even have a proper caregiver. But whoever from the community assists them should, so when social distances applies to them, that person becomes a shield of the person who is the person with disability. And the social distancing practices should be in a way practiced that how the person presents. Myself being a caregiver for a person with disability, I had the supervisor because my mother, who's not is a wheelchair bound, is not able to. She had this emergency during this period. I had to consult a doctor, so I opted not to take her to the hospital, an aged person. I thought it would not be a good idea to expose her. And I myself made that visit to the hospital because I could take all the precautions. And then if the need be, I'd be taken. So what is very important to establish the relationship between the caregiver and the person with disability. With lots of things can be taken with a touch, how to make it, how to do it. Those trainings can be very well be incorporated in the system, how the caregivers, that is one important aspect that I think caregivers need to be trained into how to enact, I mean, how to apply physical distancing for the patient, for the person with whom they are closely connected, whom they are providing. That could be a health person also. The second thing, yeah, and so some of the people have already pointed out, I'm not going to repeat them, but some of the points that need to be in terms of people with disability, we have to ensure that equitable access to healthcare and some disruption, I mean, how to access emergency services, and some of the services they need all the time, like physiotherapy may be required, people maybe have occupational therapy, maybe requiring, some people requiring blood transfusions. So any of these services need to be continued. We had here a situation where there was disruption, but the biggest problem that we are, I mean, people with disabilities are facing with in the interruption in the services they need on a regular basis. I think that has to be taken care of, and that is, I think, one of the very important aspects. In the case of thalassaemics who require sickle cell disease people, we had this problem of not having, interruption in transfusions. So that was one we written to the MD, and so that is again, how can you make blood donations possible in this time? People are not willing to donate. Blood banks are drying up. People are not willing to donate, not because they don't want to donate. They don't want to expose themselves to, to go into a hospital to do that, to donate the blood. So these things have to be cared. How can we arrange that? How can we ensure that blood donations can take place? These are some, again, what some of the services. Now, without taking much of time, I just make a few points regarding how genomics has helped. This pandemic is different, will be remembered for the previous outbreaks. So with the rapid knowledge that could be created and could be applied because of the rapid advances in genomics. The speed with which the viral genome was sequenced, it could be shared, and the speed within 3 months, so many vaccines and therapies were already at the trial stage. That has been a remarkable thing. What I just want to, besides what we have learned, when we established this foundation, as you know, that we have been interacting with Shri Chauhanji and also with Dr. Durgesh on a regular basis. One of the things was how to integrate genomics into public health. And so this pandemic actually explains that how advantageous it has been, the knowledge has been. The second thing we have been trying to focus on, now we know a lot about the genome of the virus, but in coming to people with disabilities, inherited disorders, and host genomics is very important. I think in a few days back, I've written up, I'll share with you people about the long-term strategy in dealing with the pandemic. And then, so here this is the how the host factors, the genetic factors of the host, not necessarily all the required, how they can be epigenetic factors also, how can they define susceptibility or resistance to the infection. We already know that at least 4 or 5 disorders, we know that how these disorders, these inherited disorders, actually they are protective to certain infections, but since certain changes could be high susceptible. Collection of that data, and that what we have always insisted is that how can we make this into a long-term strategy, because we are going to live with COVID for anyhow, it's going to be there. How can we have been talking for quite a long time that we need to collect data, the samples, and then create a data in the public health mode, in the administratively aligned, so that it can be used by public health officials. Many of the knowledge is available with the referral labs, but often it is not segregated in a manner which can be applied or could be used by public health officials. I think that's another opportunity I'll try to stress upon, that this is an opportunity when we can start. We are already, if I think some states are taking, but taking it forward, maybe there is a lot of stress on the genomics initiative by the government of India in the budget. But I think the states can take that initiative. Uttarakhand also takes that initiative to create that. And that's not a very tough thing. It can be done. And this is again an opportunity, because ultimately, when you integrate it, it can provide a number of opportunities where you can identify people with high susceptibility, with resistance, and that could increasingly help in managing the epidemic into singly. You can transport, the one of the limitations people in these remote areas is that they is not possible. So you can, if you identify the person, you can transport the person to the facility where he may require. That is one of the advantages. There are many advantages, so that could be. So I think just at the end of the day, when we at the end, I would just like to impress upon that when we think of public health, we need to think about having local structures like primary health care centers, school, post office, banks, Anganwadi, and even in urban areas, the urban health centers. Some people have been saying about the rural and remote areas, that also that interests me also. How are we going to take care to them? When these centers are unit, they function, even when it comes to technology, they become the center points. People can access, and there's always a less pressure. Instead of so many people being dependent on a district hospital or a bigger hospital. That's the last point that I want to make. So we should take this opportunity to ramp up our public health structure. We should think that we need infrastructure and people instead than more. Instead of having insurance and money, we still cannot have care unless and until we have the infrastructure and the people. And this is the biggest lesson that this pandemic, health is not individual, it is social. I think that was a point made, that Spanish flu made. I think that lesson we have to relearn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sujata. You talked about public health, and this initiative was taken by USERC, this community health, and all the webinarians, they will be very happy to know, our chairperson will be very happy to know that not only during the course of this COVID-19, USERC could launch one application, mobile application, that is COVID-19 tracking system. And on 25th of March itself, early days of Mr. COVID, and so far it has more than 11,000 downloads. So it is helping out people like anything. And similarly, today only, we are in the midst of a seminar. In fact, we are developing a course on virology, 3 months, 1 month. So every day, today it is with Ranchi University we are doing. 10 o'clock the webinar started, and after this webinar again, I'll be joining that one. So many community health based programs we have initiated. and we are happy to have you because Gap Foundation happens to be one of our collaborators. Thank you very much. We have 2-3 more speakers. Then we will go to quickly to question.
Moderator, sir, can I make a quick comment on physical distancing? One quick one. Just as
please,
that's an important
please.
aspect. Yeah. One, most people with disability, especially severely, disabled, who are cerebral palsy, spinal injury, wheelchair users, they would require assistance from someone else to push the chair, to put them onto bed, put them onto potty. So there, how do we ensure physical distancing at that point of time? Now, some of the visually impaired, when they want to, somebody, they are on medication. Someone has to put eye drops into their eyes. Before the challenges, physical distancing in case of caregivers is one of the most important aspects. You may have to come up with a guideline specifically for caregivers, how to ensure physical distancing, because you can't stay away with them.
That's very true. May I request Mr. Sahab Nikwi for his quick comments? He is director of SAS Foundation and also works in the domain of this learning disabilities. For your quick comment, Mr. Sahib, if you are there, are you? Is he there? And I'll request Mr. Murli Padmanabham sir and for his comment if he is there. And I also, because I can see so many scientists.
Yeah,
Mr.
hi everyone. Good
Satish,
afternoon. Can you hear me all?
Yeah, Mr. Murli has come, he's there. Please, sir, for your remarks.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Hi, this is Murli from Light for the World. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you for this opportunity. Since everyone has spoken, this is my challenge when I speak at the end. Anyway, but I'll give my points quickly from a very international organization perspective, what we do and how it has impacted our work. Of course, we represent people with the disabilities, and what are the emerging challenges and what could be how we can convert them into opportunities. As international organizations, we have been right from the beginning trying to knock at the doors of international entities who can influence the policies of several member states. For instance, we have been working with the UN as International Disability Movement or International Disability and Development Consortium, with a group of INGOs who are working on disability. So we have been working closely with the World Health Organization, UN bodies, to ensure that all their communication related to COVID-19 are made accessible. Even we have started a campaign. Every week briefing is happening with the UN and WHO, and they have also responded sensitively and positively. So if you notice, all the daily briefings are ensured to be inclusive and accessible. They have also come out with a policy briefing exclusively on disability and COVID response. So these are the major work we have been doing. And in many countries, we ensured that every press release or press briefing is made accessible, especially the sign language interpretation. We are also trying to make it happen in other countries in the region as well. When it comes to fund mobilization, as you all know, it's very difficult situation. It doesn't, unlike the other disasters, it was not selective. It was pandemic. It even affected people who are working for the low income groups or the poor. So we are also struggling. We are also at a very disadvantageous position when it comes to fund mobilization. Still, colleagues are doing their best, calling the individual donors or foundations, talking to them, since there is a physical distancing or lockdown in country for that matter. So somebody said yesterday she spent about she made about 190 calls in the last 1 week
Murli, it's not audible. Murli, it's not audible. Make sure. Murli,
Mr. It's not audible. You got to possibly unmute your mic. Yes. Some connectivity seems to be a little disfigured.
who have been kind of regular supporters to our cause. So these are the challenges we have as fundraising organizations. Other than that, to reaching out to people, how we are going to make all this procedures. This is a challenge for us. How we are going to really take forward this post-COVID in terms of education or employment. Because one of the reports, World Bank reports, is people who are already lifted from poverty line, again, another 500 million are going to come back below the poverty line. So this is another challenge for us, how we are going to contribute to this cause.
It's not audible.
Children with the disability in the changing scenario, how they can be included in the online education, as Prashant was
Thank you. Thank you, Murli sir. It's not audible.
mentioning about how we're going to make those.
It's connectivity issue again. Connectivity challenge.
Murli, last few sentences and last few, this one was almost 1 minute. Was not audible.
You can conclude. It's not audible. Hello. Mr. Padmanabhan, are you continuing?
The other week, somebody was talking about the concept or the very culture of work from home. Even if you notice, Twitter has said their employees can work from home.
Rajendra sir, if you have his number, you can tell him. It's not audible. Maybe he can conclude.
I have his number. I will call him up.
Yeah, please tell him so he could conclude. We can invite someone. Meanwhile, if he can fix this connectivity issue, he can come back again and he can answer a couple of questions. So meanwhile, I can ask last speaker, Mr. Naqvi, for his quick comments. Then Mr. Shailendra, who is the nucleus of this entire program, will speak. Then we will take a few questions. Mr. Naqvi.
Sir, good afternoon.
Please. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Can you all hear?
Yes. Please go on.
All right. So thank you so much for this platform. Thank you so much. And Munna sir and Dr. Durgesh, everybody is fantastic. Just a couple of points that I would want to make is that it is a time to work with the grassroots NGOs, because during my experiences of social engagement, I realize that there is a need for the direct engagement of people who work with the grassroots. Can you all hear?
Grassroots, yes. Hello. Please go on. Please go on. Please go on.
Can you all hear?
Please go on. Please go on. Your connectivity seems to have some issue. Shailendra, can you hear me?
I
please?
see there's a need to work directly among the grassroots. I also feel that, yeah,
we could get it, but the point you are making is you are emphasizing on the need to work on the grassroots and also involve
there is a need. Yeah, I also feel.
No, it's not audible. I'm sorry. I'll invite Mr. Shailendra for his comments, and he could also put in into account this entire webinar. Then we'll take a few questions. Shailendra, please go on.
Can I come, sir?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. All respected guests. Munna sir, as like always, your kind support with our community. Mr. Mahantesh sir, and very special to SK Rongta sir. You are not today, always with us, particular with this community, and your effort is always remember in another 100,000 years. You not only protect, you gave the many people, person with disabilities, life security and all kind of the facilities. Prashant sir, without you, technology cannot grow, particularly in India and Asia. Rajendra sir, my group and other participation. I would like to say to you all, it is a really indeed experience to be in this webinar. As Rongta sir has mentioned, lot of person with disabilities, those are in the services, they face lot of challenges because they were not able to reach the office, and they have to be communicated by the public transports, or they have to be depend someone in someone. When you see today in this crisis, nobody easily to help. When you talk about particular in the term of blind, visually impaired, sometimes we that we are talking amongst us. Okay, now tomorrow when we have to go outside the house, we need to be a road cross. We need to be a hold somebody hand. We need to be a walk in the metro. We need to be a walk in the roads or in the that marketplace and etc. It will be going to be a very big challenge for visually impaired. Also, as I that we are mostly visually impaired people are not with the technology. Particular those are the residing in the rural areas. They already exclude from the opportunities, and now this pandemic situation will give more challenge to them also, so that the social organizations should ensure that the rural areas, person with disabilities will also get the more attention as compared to like cities or urbans. This webinar is very useful. I'm seeing that lot of participations, more than around 120-30 people was listening also across the country from different part of India. And this time, I'm quoting the Rongta sir statement, it is a time to all social organizations, particular those are working for disabilities, they should have to come together. And otherwise, this fight is really going to be tough for person with disabilities. Also, that Samarthanam, so far within the 1.5 month, extremely, that day and night they are working as in the community as a front warrior, to reaching out not only to the disabled, those are the needy, not only with the limited to the distributing that food items, raw items with the medical equipments, or as per their needs and requirements. Now we are coming almost new the next round of this lockdown. Fourth, government so far has not announced what the new rules are coming, but government should have to involve the social organizations to making the rules and regulations, because this will be not going to be finished within the month. It will take easily minimum 6 months, and nobody as a government is so far not involving the disabilities activists to understand their problem and challenges. Media, however, media is again, they are missing out this very important part, not addressing the challenges of person with disabilities. This is more severe challenges, because as again I'm quoting the wrong point, that the person with disability will go out, they might be bring that disease to their family members, and it can be a vastly spread. So government should keep on the priority, the person with disability need more support and safety and security in this pandemic situations. The consent of the time, I would like to conclude my point. The Rongta sir said lot of new initiative in the term of the opportunities are coming in manufacturing. Samarthanam is doing lot of in the livelihood part. I think that Samarthanam and other disability organization can go forward to take this livelihood opportunity for person with disabilities to make the sanitizer, mask, and the other that medical equipments which can easily, and government has give the special guidelines that manufacture in India. So this will be a good opportunity for the social organizations and the creating a more job opportunities for person with disabilities. Thank you, sir.
Shailendra, today he is little indisposed, but as an organizer of this program, he tried out, called out people all around, all across. So he has been our pillar of strength always. So we shout out for him. Shailendra, thank you.
Professor Durgesh, but this Shailendra has made one point very strong. That is, the departments and the institutions are not involving the activists, those who are working for the welfare of people with disabilities. So this is a very important aspect that he has very forcefully highlighted, and that needs to be taken note of.
Yes, sir. And but for USERC, because he is himself an ambassador of USERC,
And
doing it.
Durgesh sir.
Yeah.
Sir, just would like to let you know and everybody else also know that Shailendra sir is not feeling well since yesterday, but you know his spirit has not his spirit has not gone down, and he was not well today morning also, but he is still with us. So I salute his spirit and for inspiring us.
Yes,
Everybody
round of
salutes his
applause for
spirit. Everybody
Yes,
salutes
yes,
his spirit.
And as the chairman is saying, we all love him. Yes, it is there. We have our scientists, Dr. Manju Sundaryal, Bhautosh Sharma ji, and Dr. O.P. Nautiyal, all are there. So, and a host of other people. But we would just like to take a few questions, if there are any questions, because this panel of experts. So I hand over this platform to our panelists. Maybe you can have 2, 3, 4 questions of consequence, significance, especially related to opportunities and challenges. Please keep yourself focused to this theme. Please. For next
Yes,
10 minutes.
Yeah. Sir, can I come in and can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Danish, thank you, Shailendra, for making us media part of this event. It was very enriching and insightful. I learned so many things. Since we have pillar of our community, Rongta sir, Prashant sir, Mahantesh sir. So 2, 3 things very important I want to make quickly. One, I was studying yesterday and I found there was 2 statements, one from the UK, Boris Johnson, PM of UK, and other was from Mr. David, who is working with WHO as a COVID expert who is taking care of things. They said COVID is not going to go away very soon. We have record of vaccine. The last vaccine we made very quickly was Ebola vaccine. It took 4 years. HIV virus, it's been 20 years we did not have vaccine for HIV. There are so many examples of such kinds. So one thing is very sure, the vaccine for corona is not going to come very soon, since Ebola took 4 years and other vaccines took 15 to 28 years. Even dengue vaccine, after 15 years it came to force, but at the last time it got failed. So now point is,
some of the vaccine did not come till date.
Yes. So question is, one, we have 3 cases of blind people as per now, what I know personally. The quarantine facilities were very poor to them. Even police and medical staff did not cooperate with them. A. So what we are doing for them? We haven't spoken a single word for the victims. One people said something for the hemophilia patient. They are not getting blood. There is a shortage of blood. Many of are dying, which goes unnoticed and uncovered. Number 2. 1, 2 very important things I want to put it. We have lost the plot. We had an opportunity when government is come up with the Accessible India campaign. Hence, we have utilized that opportunity. We will not be struggling with the accessibility challenges, such as web accessibility challenges. 2, since I already told it can take some time to get into this, we can get into this vaccine. Can we work? This is a very good time to convert it to the opportunities, as Mahantesh sir said. Can we, because it is not possible for the government to exempt us for a 1 year or 2 year from the jobs. So can we utilize this? Can we run this home work from home culture? Can we work over that? And if we will go for this thing, so what will happen is things will be accessible. Government needs to mandate the accessibility if they want to take work from us.
Mr. Mahajan, the chairman of the session, Mr. Chauhan, wants to take up this question, please. Yes, sir. चौहान साहब कुछ बोल रहे हैं. Yes.
I have a direct question from Dr. Rajendra Ji, Guruji, or respectfully call him. We all respectfully call him, because he has specifically mentioned to 2020 package announced by the Prime Minister, which places heavy reliance on self-employment, generation of self-employment. The impact of COVID-19 on all walk of life, and especially people with the disabilities, are likely to lose more jobs than the others. So this is going to be a very serious concern. So I'd like to have a word of guidance from Rajendra Ji, how this new set of package which has been announced, 20 lakh crore package announced by the Prime Minister, in terms of the job creation, especially for the people with the physical disabilities, and creating a new environment of work from home or new startups. So I have tried to club 2-3 things together, because this is the biggest ever economic bailout package that has been announced by the government. So if we can carve out some thing, like viable for people with the physical disability, that will be a great deal. Because as you said, as Professor Durgesh said, that Rajendra Ji is a reservoir of knowledge. So I use the word that I'd like to have a word of sort of a guidance from him, so that a person like me, who are a small activist in the government system, can put our head together and work out some mechanism.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Manji. Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And you can
Basically,
also
three
previous
important
query
strategies.
also.
It's a very crucial and very critical issue which you have raised. So one is a restriction of job loss. All these packages will come with a policy framework, as you know. So within the policy framework, if there is just one line mentioned that if your company, MSME, has people with disability, what percentage of your workforce are people with disability? That's a question. And then they have to mention that. If they has any one of them lost job as an impact of COVID? Second question, if these are asked in the application for getting the bailout, the employer will think 100 times. If they don't have, they will somehow try to employ few people. If they have, and if they have vacated them from the job, they will try to call them back. This is an alert that can be created with just including 2 questions in the bailout application. When they go for any package from the government, they need to fill up this and provide the data. One way of checking it. Second thing is, when they sign the contract, there should be some lines like, they are not supposed to kick out any people with disability or family member of disabled person. For example, the employee may not be person with disability, but his or her child may be a person with a child with disability. So even that could be included within the policy framework. When you prepare an application for bailout, then they have to fill up this and provide data. That itself will provide a huge difference. I'll quote some examples of accessibility. When accessibility norms came up, they have requested all the architects and the new builders to follow accessibility norms. And now they have to do that, because without that, they don't get the loan, they don't get the incentives from the government. And another example from Bangladesh, when we went to DFID was investing huge money on promoting inclusive education. I just requested them, when you provide grants to government of Bangladesh and to the schools, ask them data, by disaggregated data of how many disabled children have got into each school. Just one question, sir. I could see the sea of difference from that year to the previous years. So these are smaller but sustainable way of bringing in policy framework within the bailout package, so that the MSMEs will ensure not job loss, but creating more jobs. Sir. This is one of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one more. I just wanted to. The previous speaker was talking about COVID-19 impact. We call it as NTD, sir. They're neglected tropical diseases. Neglected tropical diseases are the one, those who are called emerging and re-emerging diseases. He mentioned about dengue, HIV, AIDS, and leprosy sometimes. These are, some of them have gone, some of them are coming, and some of them are new diseases. So the neglected tropical diseases, there is a complete Ministry of Health has got a separate section working on that. So they need to be brought in as to ensure all the issues that raised by the previous speaker. They have the expertise, they have a team working on how to address emerging and re-emerging diseases across tropical countries, including India. Bolo bhai, bolo bhai.
Can I speak for a 2 minute? Just for a suggestion. Mentor sir.
Yeah, moderator.
See, okay, I am center head for Delhi of Samarthanam. I am hearing since beginning many our senior has said very good things which we can follow to provide maximum relief support at ground. As Rumta sir said, going digital. Samarthanam is trying to go digital. We are trying our classes to take online to our trainers and our staff. And our mentor sir said the utilization of sixth sense, which would be very helpful in our day-to-day life, because myself is person with disability, we know how we can use our senses. And my friend just said that he has learned and read that COVID is not going very fastly. It's very true. People are saying, media is saying, huh? And our friend Srenderji said that we need so many things at grassroots level. Rather, is saying we have to go towards accessibility and all. My small point is that I have read all the guidelines of National Disaster Management Authority. There are well vet design and develop document it is, and 22 ministries of Government of India has endorsed this document, and there is good chapters related to disability. But the problem is all DMs, DCs, SPs, police, and all people don't know anything about this kind of document, anything on sensitivity at ground. So means now this is very good platform. We are collecting so many positive ideas. Maybe our next idea would be to go towards advocacy, to implement those written document of National Disaster Management Authority, where inclusive chapters are there to provide beneficiaries inclusive support, not any extra support. एक हेल्पलाइन हो, उसी पे विकलांगता के भी जिक्र आ जाए, उसी पे महिला पुरुष का भी जिक्र आ जाए. हम नहीं चाहते कि हम अलग डिपार्टमेंट हो, अलग हेल्पलाइन, कुछ ना हो अलग. वही एक डीसी का डीएम का हेल्पलाइन हो जिसपे उनको विकलांगता संबंधित सारी जानकारी पहले से हो, ताकि एक विकलांग व्यक्ति जो सफर कर रहा है, जो परेशान है, उसका कहीं ना कहीं हल हो पाए. हम दिल्ली में देख रहे हैं, हम समर्थन की तरफ से काफी कुछ प्लान करने की कोशिश में है कि किसको कुछ राशन, या सर ने महंत सर ने बताया कुछ फूड या बहुत कुछ हम करते, लेकिन फिर भी स्टिल एनजीओ हैज लिमिटेड कैपेसिटी. गवर्नमेंट कैन डू मैक्सिमम देन एनी एनजीओ. So we should go, or we can try to go towards advocacy over the written document of National Disaster Management Authority, so that we can provide more help to our beneficiaries. This is my point.
Oh, that's a wonderful point. In fact, advocacy and focusing, on putting all these things, on single board. That's very important. One or two more questions, and then we will call it a day.
Chavan sir's very good question. Sir, skill development is another area where we need to look at. For example, new norm, what we call as new norm of life post-COVID, and majority of them have to work from home. Plenty of people with disability who are already employed, they do not have access to internet, laptop, on all the gadgets that is required as far as technology-driven one to work from home. So this package should consist of some percentage of grant which can enable people with disability to work from home, so that they are not left out. Otherwise, the employer will say, you don't have all this, so we can't provide you that job. So they can work from home. At the same time, they need to be assisted with those things, plus training, skill development, plenty of new opportunities, new industries, a new way of working within the industries will come up. So, but not necessarily youngsters with people with disabilities are appropriately trained to get into those jobs like others. So the skill development ministry, which is now looking at it, has to come up with a package where people with disabilities are retrained to get into new jobs. These are the two other strategies we could think of. And one
And
last thing
we
which
must
yeah.
work on our immunity. This is very to prevent this. We must work on our immunity. Persons with disabilities must work on their immunity. So for preventing this, we must also focus on.
Yes, yes, yes.
One
Mr.
fantastic
Narration
webinar.
also seems to be there. Do you have anything to add to this? Otherwise, we will wrap up the session. And we will encapsulate all these ideas into one document and one film, and then we will finally release it and we will disseminate the whole thing.
I would just request Mahantesh ji and our good friend Shailendra to form this e-group of all the people who have contributed today and many others. Second one, we should develop an action point for the next 100 days. Next 100 days, all of us together as a working group, as a team of experts, how we could contribute, how we can bring that into a shape, what actions we need to take on ourselves and from the institutions that are concerned. That's my request.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Can I quickly?
Yeah, Mr. Shivam Deshpande. Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes. Thank you very much, Shailendra and Durgesh sir, for organizing this.
Go on. You are not audible. Please.
You are not audible.
Yeah.
You are to speak.
Sir,
Speak
can you
louder,
hear me?
Pandey.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now you are. Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Thank you very much for facilitating this, Durgesh sir and Shailendra. Thanks to chairman. I think we should have a politician and activist like him to empathize, our community. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Sir, when it comes to, am I audible?
Yes, yes, go on.
Yes. Yes, I was just wondering. Yeah, it's related to the point that Rajendra sir has mentioned. Sir, we have more than 25-30 schemes, launched by government and plus the present package. It would be great if you can, if all of us can lobby with the government to make it inclusive. Okay. Nowadays, due to this COVID-19, the entire job pattern is going to change, right? There may be a lot of opportunities for poor and people who live in the rural areas, people who live in the rural areas. If these schemes have proper inclusivity, then it is easy for people with disabilities to access all the package plus the existing schemes and programs. Point number one, the government should adopt a tracking mechanism what extent these schemes are reaching to people with a disability. If that happens, and thousands and millions of people with disabilities benefited. And my friend spoke about technology aspect. I was wondering, when it comes to the therapeutic and physical support which is required for people with a disability. I was thinking if certain techniques.
Come little closer to the mic.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Now I was wondering if all the therapy techniques are digitalized, where caregivers can be provided the guidelines and with the stick figures or with a proper demonstration by using this technology, and the caregivers can provide the physiotherapy with the support of physiotherapist. If a physiotherapist plans certain program for a physical disability to do the physiotherapy, if those pictures or symbols are available on digital platform, so that he or she, the mother or a father, can perform a physiotherapy at their doorstep. Okay, one is a digital related recommendation. Second one is inclusion of all the schemes and program for people with disabilities. Thank you.
Ask Tripathi around. Can he come in with something, the boards and other, especially for the disabled that they have designed? Is he there? Mr. Tripathi, are you there? He is not there. So, only with the permission of our chairman, we will take one more question and then we will finally vote of thanks. Then we will have a comprehensive document based on these deliberations, and then we will put it on web for further, for further enhancements.
Professor Durgesh, with your permission, with your permission, and with the permission of all, with the permission of all the participants, I feel like passing a concluding remark on this day before you call up.
No, you have to please go on. Yes.
I feel like saying that because the whole thing is the impact of COVID-19 on the lives of the people with disabilities. So I see the silver linings in the cloud, and it looks to me, and I feel this is my gut feeling, that COVID-19 could be a blessing in disguise for people with disabilities, because this is going to change the course of the development and our work culture. As Rajendra Guruji has rightly highlighted so many aspects of work from home and so many other things. So with this optimism, I can say that this COVID-19 is proved to be a blessing in disguise for people with physical disabilities.
Dr. Pant, am I audible now?
Who is Mr. Tripathi? Are you there? Quick word.
Yes, sir.
Because the chairman of the session he has already spoken. So,
right.
Half a minute, you could chip in
Sure.
with some technology you have.
Certainly, sir. And thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. And it's an honor to be along in this forum along with Mr. Chauhan. So I heard a lot of inputs and points coming up from all the participants and speakers. And I'm very happy to, kind of introduce myself that I come from a technology background. I'm working with a company who is specialized in providing bot solutions and other digital content solutions. And currently we have launched a lot of, projects on WhatsApp with regards to facilitating admissions, school admissions, learning, digital content for, helping out the needy people. And also uplifting the e-economy of any state or business. So I would like to say that we would love to connect with on such forums and take up the requirements and probably individually bring across the relevant solutions which can be presented and cover up, because I understood in this forum primarily there were four opportunity areas, which is one is the employment sustainability. Then we talk about the support and information flow within the society, and economy stabilization and education and upliftment for specially abled people and for the regular people in the society that is there. And we have multiple solutions around it, and we would be very much happy to present those solutions to all the required audience. And obviously, we would like to join hands with the government in order to enable the fight against COVID-19 through practicing social distancing by enabling technology.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. As Mr. Chauhan said, Mr. COVID is our neighbor and he is going to stay. we got to live in sync with Mr. COVID, and therefore we got to devise newer strategies, newer thinking, reverse innovation, many other things. And we got to do better with less, whatever resources we have. So we have to do that. May I, in the end, request Mr. Yuvraj Singh and then Dr. Manju Sundaryal for his for our vote of thanks. Mr. Yuvraj Singh, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my part is over, so I am handing over this webinar now to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Excellent, sir. Excellent.
I would like to mention especially for Manju ma'am, who has been instrumental in organizing this, along with the main man behind this, Mr. Shailendra Yadav ji. I've been in constant touch with him, and I know how he has been feeling since yesterday. But still, his dedication and the efforts that have not gone down. And I would also like to thank Mr. Durgesh for moderating this whole event. And again, I would like to thank our sponsor, our radio partner, Radio Udaan. And Manju ma'am, I would like you to give a vote of thanks as well. Hello, Manju ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, hello. 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 Hello.
We can hear you.
Yeah, ma'am, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Dr. Sundaryal, please speak. Are you there? So.
Hello.
Yeah, please speak.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. It was very interesting webinar today. Yeah. Good afternoon. It was really very interesting webinar, and many important recommendations have come on. Our eminent speakers, they were very brilliantly spoke on different aspects of COVID and their impact on disabled people. And the major recommendations which have come up were involvement of local NGOs, as our honorable MLA sir has also emphasized on that. This is very important. Involvement of local NGOs who are working on disabled people is really, there is a need to involve them, so that, and as Sujata ma'am said, that healthcare, there is a need to take care of healthcare system of disabled people. So we have to look on that also. And skill development, livelihood options, we have to see the livelihood options and skill development for the disabled people, and need to then through this we can make a strong recommendation and a policy document. As I think our honorable MLA sir is already here, so he was the as here already in the webinar, so he can take our this voice and recommendations to the right place, in right place. Now I thank each and every speaker, eminent speaker, our honorable sir, who has given his precious time to earn, and always he grace the occasions in our field. Now, thank you very much.
I must say one thing, sir, to all the speakers and especially our chairman, sir, Chavan, sir. I've seen politicians coming and just inaugurating, cutting the tape and moving away. For the last 4 hours, he has not moved from his chair also. All others have muted, but he has not muted his thing. That shows his commitment. Big namaskar, sir. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद sir आपको.
And he is a bridge between Karnataka and Uttarakhand. We have a treaty between these two states. Educationally, we are having so many programs these days. So we will invite him to Samarthanam. So Mahantesh sir, we will be inviting. We are inviting.
Please. Yes, extend him invitation in my behalf also.
Okay. Yes. You can also come, sir, along with him. You can also come.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
sure,
are
sure.
all going to Monday also.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Chaliye, thank you very much to all the participant speakers, to everyone, especially to Mr. Mahantesh sir and Burunka sir, to all our participants from other states, from Nepal. Thank you very much, and very special big thank you to Chauhan sir, as ever, to USERC team. Thank you so much. Thank you, and
Thank you.
thank you to Samarthanam.
Yes, sir. आपका जिम्मेदारी है सर को आप बेंगलुरु लेके आना समर्थन के लिए
Post COVID we are there.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Call 944.